Joined live tonight by Republican Senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. Welcome back, Senator.
Good to see you, Shannon. Thank you.
I thought this was so interesting. There's something that you worked on. This was a bipartisan measure. It's a couple years back, and it's been used in situations like we're seeing playing out in Ukraine right now. And there's some special technology that's used to make sure that people will be able to communicate. I've got a bit of the explanation from your office about that. It's called Siphon, one of the most technically advanced and widely used circumvention tools in the world, providing access to uncensored content to millions of users. It says their robust circumvention technology is proven consistently effective in the world's most highly censored contexts. Tell us, kind of what your foresight was in thinking about this technology and how it's making a difference in Ukraine.
Yes, when you look at the impact of censorship by rogue governments, and there needs to be an ability for citizens, the people of the country, to communicate, the Open Technology Fund is something that Senator Menendez and I had worked on, and this is how Siphon was stood up. Now, Cuba used it last year, and what we know is we have 150,000 users per day in Ukraine. Also, the Russian people, some that are using this, Belarus, where they're using it to push back against some of the misinformation that the Kremlin is putting out. I think today there were 77 terabytes of data that came over this system. But this is a way for people who were fighting tyranny to communicate with one another and to send that information of what is actually happening on the ground.
I mean, yeah, it's critical for us as we're hearing from people, seeing firsthand accounts, right, seeing, things from the ground in a way that, this information just, a few decades ago would have been blocked from getting to us, if ever, at least by weeks and months. So to have this in real time is critical when any of these situations come up around the globe. I want to read something, too, from the Wall Street Journal's opinion page tonight, saying Ukraine changes everything. It's about the fact that the West and Europe have to wake up to what's been going on and hoping that it's not too late. It says Mr. Putin and no doubt China's Xi Jinping saw a West on the brink of political and moral decadence, countries whose leadership allowed marginal issues such as windmills and gender complexity to displace national self-preservation, do nothing, and disorder descends. All right, so what did we get wrong, and how can we right the ship at this hour?
What we need to do is realize that we have an iconic freedom fighter now in President Zelensky. He has set a standard. He inspires people. He's inspiring his countrymen. And it is up to us, the free world, to rally around him and the Ukrainian people. I think this is very good for us. It has pointed out to free people what Russia is really up to, their goal of reuniting the old Soviet Union. It has also drawn attention to what Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do, how they're trying to break apart the freedom of religion, how they want to do away with that. And Shannon, as you know, communist regimes, Marxist regimes, one of the first things that they do is try to destroy the church. Mm-hmm. And in Ukraine, where you have 63% of the population that is Orthodox, they're Christian, another 7% that are other Christian religions, we know that Russia, the communists, are going after them somewhat on that account. The other thing that we have to realize is that it is up to us to anticipate what is going to happen. Last fall, I sent a letter to the White House. Now's the time for sanctions. It's the time to get lethal aid over to the Ukrainian army. And Ronald Reagan would have told us peace through strength and a strong military. That is a principle the Republican Party has stood for. It is something that we need to realize, vigilance and anticipating what evil people like Xi Jinping and like Vladimir Putin are going to do.
I got to say, I think it's been encouraging to the American people to see that there's been bipartisan coalescence around those principles, Correct. Those ideas, and trying to make sure that everything can be done possible for the Ukrainian people. We talked about China there, mentioned that. Were you surprised that we didn't hear more direct talk from the president last night in the State of Union about China?
I was astounded that there was not more said about what we're actually going to do to make certain that Putin is not successful in Ukraine, and what we're going to do to be certain that Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party does not move forward on Taiwan, in the South China Sea, in the Philippines, in other areas where they really are trying to push for dominance, because their goal is to be globally dominant by the time we get to 2050. So, of course, the president should have talked more about that and about how we strengthen our military, how we strengthen our critical infrastructure to stand against cyber attacks, how we're going to build out Space Force so that our military is going to be more agile, more flexible, more versatile. But he never went there at all, which was a big disappointment. He touched on Ukraine and then he pivoted to what I call the Build Back Broke agenda. And how he was going to do free everything. And guess what? It's never going to cost you one thin dime.
Well, taxpayers know that nothing is free. This is the first thing I learned in business school. Right. And listen, China today abstaining from that UN vote, disavowing everything that Russia has done. Looks like they are trying to play both sides of this thing. We'll see.
Yes.
Senator Blackburn, always great to have you. Thank you.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
More live coverage.